Let's get started.
We got in here, I was like, why is only Lance in here? What's happening?
Okay. All right. Well, let's get started. So I thought it'd be good to just sort of do a little check-in after I think in terms of learning the Tlingit language, being able to sort of put it together, right? And for me, it comes down to sort of two fundamental things that I try to focus on, which is one, when you hear something, what are the odds that you can understand it? And then two, if you want to say something, what are the odds that you can communicate it, or you can at least look up how to say it until you learn how to say it. So that's really kind of fluency, right? And so when we're talking about fluency, we're talking about trying to just build this language up within ourselves. I think we reach a point where we're starting to move beyond memorizing things and recalling them, and we're trying to sort of fill in all these gaps and just sort of put a whole bunch of different information in that unlocks this realm where we can think in the language. And I think one of the dangers of this getting into this realm is I think you are now qualified to know that there's so much stuff that you don't know. I feel like when you start to learn a language, you do reach a point where, moving beyond just sort of, oh yeah, this is the word for that, and here's the phrase for that, where you start to sort of think about being able to just sort of use the language. I think it's kind of a scary place, because now you're looking at this whole other thought world that you want to put inside of your consciousness. So eventually you're not just sort of thinking of it in English and then looking it up and then saying it, but that you're actually trying to think it, clink it, trademark, copyright. So, with those thoughts in mind, yes, and it's a scary thing. I remember I was at a meeting, or no, we were at an immersion. Sit itiqiyih, question kat kadech talk shu wikichen, wigucha aya, kadewe absin. Yeah, shawat. Haina kauni joya, just the cut that at was cool, aya, gucha away, shout the hit, shout the eat. Hatka, okay. Ako isa tingewe etini, yaki. Joya, way to just the cut you think it that was cool. Who away wukach. So we were at an immersion in Glacier Bay, and a lady there, she held up a glass and she said, I feel like I've filled this glass with what I know about Tlingit. And I thought, oh, cool. And then she says, and if you look at the ocean, that represents Tlingit knowledge. And I was like, oh, and so it's daunting, right? It's overwhelming. But this is the point. You got to push yourself past this point. There's going to be a lot of hurdles. But this is sort of like, I went on a canoe trip, and the captain kept saying, it's just past that point. And we get past the point. He's like, it's just past that point. And I said, are you lying? Are you just saying that just to keep us going? And so, but I do think there's these couple of hurdles where it feels like it might be quitting time. Right? And to be honest, I would say, if you looked at this room and the chairs, there have literally been thousands, probably 1,000 people who've come to learn the Tlingit language in this method, and through other methods. And I would say well over 900 of them have left. Right? And so there is a stopping point. And if there's so few people who know Tlingit, I think it's really easy to know more than everybody else, and to sort of find this comfort zone. But then how do you keep this motivation? Because I think when you first start learning a language, you're like, hey, I learned the word for that. Hey, I learned the word for that. Hey, I learned the word for that. But now you get to this point where it's going to require a little bit more. So with those kinds of things in mind, what are you guys' thoughts on language learning and where you sort of generally find yourself? And what do you need? Or what do you think you need?
I still want to put sentences together.
Yeah,
I'm just practicing memorizing words yet.
Yeah, and so it's a big thing to be able to sort of start figuring out how to put some sentences together. And so we'll keep doing the stuff that we're doing. And so my plan for these next 2 weeks is we have 2 weeks of class left, and we got you gotta hand in a 2-page letter. You're gonna make something, do some kind of language performance. What's that?
We only have 2 weeks.
Yeah, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 classes left, and then we are.
And 2 pages?
Yeah. So we should start thinking about that. Now, you're going to write a 2-page letter to somebody. So you should start thinking about what that letter is, what it's going to be. Keep it very straightforward. I don't mind if these are things that you find and sort of put together, but what I want to see is that it's communicating something, right? And so in the past, I've seen letters written to the Tlingit language community. I've seen letters written to siblings, to parents, to... what's that?
Where do you want it? When is it due?
Let's say December 14th. And you can email it to me, that's fine. Or wait, no, it's got to be December... What's the last day we get together? It should be a Tuesday. It's going to be finals week.
It's before the 8th. It's
Tuesday the 12th, probably the last day.
Yes, so Tuesday the 12th. What I would like us to do is get together and everybody's going to read your letter. So you got a 2-page letter. And then I would like to see some sort of language performance in addition to that. And you can work on this collaboratively if you want. If you want to work in groups, that's fine. But I want to see some deep content, some good fun stuff. We can bounce some ideas around. We are going to get into sort of wrap-up mode. But there are some things I want to cover in these next couple weeks too. Other thoughts? The journey?
the performance. Does it have a time limit? Like a minimum time and a maximum time?
How about more than a minute? Is that manageable?
We're not
Now, if
making
we
another
see
video.
Ginger in y'all video, we know you
We're just talking about. We're just like
It can be a video.
Yes.
There's a lot of production that goes into that. That's fine.
We
In the-
crop Ginger.
In the past, what's that?
We crop Ginger ours.
Oh, it's like, yeah, it can evolve. It can evolve people through a distance, whatever you want to do. Those of you who are out there in the distance, yes, and I would like you. So I would like to hear your letter, but I would also like you to send it to me. You can either hand it in, or I would prefer that you emailed it to me, because then I could look at it. That allows me to give, because in the moment there's a lot of stuff I'll probably catch, but I want to just give you some feedback on it. And if it's a sensitive thing, it's really just going to be about your language, right? It's not going to be, hey, you really should have said this to them, right? There's just going to be just structural things if I see anything there. And then...
Should we write, like, when we write it, should we write it like an essay or just like...
just a letter.
Yes.
Yeah, no.
Where'd you write your brown?
Hey, he did say double spaced.
Yeah, 2 pages, double space.
That's half the battle right there.
Okay.
2 pages, double space. A letter. It works better if it's literally to somebody. What kinds of things would you say to that person in Tlingit? Don't go for any. Try not to get too. Go ahead.
So it will be about a letter. Sorry, I'm getting echo on my end.
Oh,
So it'll be a letter about the language, or can we write something like a story or something long as it's in Tlingit?
Yeah, as long as it's in Tlingit, it could be about anything. So it doesn't have to be about the language. It doesn't have to be. There's no parameters except that it's a letter to somebody, and you have to actually send it to them. That's totally up to you.
And then we'll read it in class?
Yes. We'll all read them in class. So
Okay, so you'll read it, read what?
you will read your own letter, and then you'll send it to me, and I'll give you some feedback on it. And then you'll have some language performance that's at least a minute long, and it's up to you whether that's. And you can, if you want to work in teams, that works. If you don't have anyone and you're kind of stuck, we can sort of figure that out too. But it could be a little dialogue exercise. It could be any number of sort of things. I want to see a little bit of language creation in there. Of some, is there something kind of original?
How do you address
So maybe for those who don't mind, if we could do like a PowerPoint and send it to you, so that way you could correct us on our grammar and our pronunciation. Would
Yeah,
that be
absolutely,
acceptable?
absolutely. So you've got next week. You get 2 weeks to put all this together. So yeah, if you have things you want to send me, I'm happy to look at them, send you suggestions. If you have specific questions, you could bring them here, or you could send them to me through email. But that's really 1 2-page letter, and then one sort of 1 minute perform. Could be a speech, could be a story, could be a skit. We've done puppet shows in here. We've done short films. We've done just have fun and express something, so that we can just sort of share with each other. That's the biggest thing, is we're sharing with each other. We're not trying to. There's no make or break sort of thing. As far as how I grade Tlingit language classes, it's about who comes and who tries. Who comes and who tries. That's all I really care about. Grading someone's language learning is always a weird thing for me, because there's all kinds of. Everybody's got their own path to fluency. You want to make sure that everybody's giving it what they got, because we all know what's at stake. We all know how many speakers we lost this year. We know that we're not gaining nearly as many as we're losing right now. And so for me, the bigger thing is just, let's stay motivated, let's stay positive, let's stay supportive of one another. And let's do some things that are fun and interesting and maybe help other people. Any other questions? Oh, go ahead.
So we can email you a short video, like a little skit with somebody else that's not in the class, that would count as the 1 minute participation, oral dialogue.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, it could be videotaped. It could be if you found a way if you want to do like a little animated thing, if you know how to do that kind of stuff, that's fine. If you want to do a little narrated. I've had students. One student, he took the video that's a commercial kind of for the Alaska Marine Highway, and he took all the audio off and he did his own audio in Tlingit. It was really fun. It was really great. He put like Ed Littlefield jazz music in the background. So you could be as creative as you want. A minute minimum something. It could be just something that you read to us. It could be, I would prefer that you didn't just sort of open up a story and read like 1 minute of a story that's already, all the work's been, I want to see a little bit of work. Other questions?
How would we address the person, like, in the letter? Because typically say, like, dear John. Yeah, like, dear whoever.
Oh, yeah, you can just put their name or a kinship term.
Okay.
Like for me, if I was going to write a letter to my mom, I'd say Achla, or maybe I'd say Atle.
Okay. Just leave out dear.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Unless you're writing to a Buakon.
Yeah.
Feel free. Yeah, it's a good question, because it doesn't have to find, you don't need, we're not looking for greetings and salutations, right? I'm just sort of looking for about 1 page of content. It's just practice exercise so that you can sort of communicate some stuff to something. I got the idea from Walkie Charles, who teaches Yupik, and in his 3rd year Yupik class, they write like 5-page essays. So, I'm not saying we're going to do that. Maybe someday we'll try.
When you're
You picked the most spoken native language in Alaska, though, too.
Yeah, 10,000 speakers, yeah. Okay, any other thoughts, questions?
You can use like because you add like the X sound right at the end, like to indicate like cute or dear.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yes, that's little or cute. Anything else? Everybody okay?
Chinese. That's what I was thinking of.
Okay. Bring your questions in these next sort of 4 classes that we have. If you have okay. So with that,
Is there any indication, or like, if we're writing a letter to somebody that's passed away, is there any indicators to say?
you could preface it if you wanted to, if you wanted us to know that information. But for me, and when I speak Tlingit, there's a lot of people who pass away and I still talk to them. And I just talk to them as if they're here. Because, you know, a lot of them come back to help us, and they're out there in the spirit world, and I feel like we can communicate with them. So whatever it is you want to communicate, feel free. There are ways to communicate when somebody has passed away. A common way would be you'd say "ye du sagen" instead of "ye du asag." That means they used to be called this, and just by using that. And there's other ways you could say, like if I was writing a letter to my mom, I might say, it's been 1 year since you left us. There's things that you could do if you wanted to put that kind of content in there. There's ways you could say that. Usually, would be like you walked away from us. And so those are ways that those things are often kind of talked about. Is there a plural form of yagi? That's a good question. So when you're talking about days, and whenever you're pluralizing in Tlingit, like in English, you would say 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. So anything more than one, now you pluralize the noun. Tlingit doesn't work like that. So you'd say kate, dech, kate, nask, kate. You wouldn't pluralize it just because there's more than one. You would pluralize it when you're saying, well, there's a whole bunch. There's more than we can count. Or it doesn't matter how many. What matters is that there's several of them. When you have days, the only way I've heard it, I don't know if you can say yaki, but what I've heard is people will say kun yaki sawa, and that just means for many days. You know, so the literal translation would be how many days. But if you could just say, if you were just telling some story, and like say there was a boat and then they got lost at sea, how many days, you know, for several days, many days, they're out there. So that's how I've heard it. But otherwise, if you have a number and then the day, you don't have to pluralize it. Okay. So I thought we'd do a little fun kind of listening exercise, and we'll come back through this and just sort of maybe each read a sentence or two. We'll see how it goes. So I'll give you guys a little background on this particular recording. This is Donna Walk, Austin Hammond, and it was recorded in 1989. Hutzi Anikatik is a live translation of the story, which is amazing. It's really fun because I think there's a really neat dynamic between what he's saying and what she's translating. And then Noah Dowenhauer came in later and gave like a more literal line-for-line translation. So you're going to see areas where the translations don't necessarily line up. But that's because translation, it's an act of kind of storytelling itself. And so I think it's really fascinating the things that she comes up with and also the things that Nora comes up with. And then we sort of, it reminds us that Raven stories are very fun, they're very funny. Some of them get a little bit serious, but this particular one is pretty funny. And then, so we'll listen to it, and then I'll just sort of scroll through so you guys can read it as we go along. And what I'd like us to do is then to each read a sentence, and we have, after having heard it, to try and mimic the storyteller a little bit, their rhythm, their tone, their cadence, and then spot any of these sort of directional suffix base type things that we've been looking at. And then if there's anything else you want to know about that particular sentence, we can look. So, but the first thing is we're going to listen to it. When this book comes out, it'll have two versions of it. One that'll have a transcription of Donna Wuk telling the story and Hootsie giving her translation. And then the second one will be the Dauenhauer translation. So we'll just look at the Dauenhauer one because you'll be able to hear Anna Katzi in the background, or right there. And a little bit more context as they are looking at a piece that is the raven's nose. It's a piece of at'u. And so they're telling the story, and then afterwards they sing the song for the particular piece. Okay. Let me cue this up.
Yes. Yes, ravens does not swim in the water. And still we have the raven knows that we have a story behind it. He heard about it. He heard about a place where they threw fat to each other. The raven really liked fat. Still, he never gained weight. He was always hungry. And he saw the people jigging for halibut. And then he looked at the water. It was just that he lifted up like a blanket to look under. So he walked underneath the water. Talking about the old timer halibut hook. They used to tie it on, and he was examining the halibut hooks while he was down there. And the person who was holding it above that was fishing that didn't even feel the jigging on the line when he untied it. When they pull up the line, there would be anything on it. And they would put another bait on it. First he said they used to tie the bait on, and then they would throw the halibut hook over. You would do the same to it, the halibut hook. He would untie the bait on. He did that so many times. And the man that was fishing was wondering what's going on, who takes the bait off our hook. So they went for an expert who could feel a very slight tug on a line. They weren't sure to find a person who was an expert at feeling things when there's a little jerk on a line. And the raven went underneath again. He went under the water. He thought he was just so clever, so he was taking it off as smoothly as he can do it, untie the bait. When he was taking the bait off, he had his nose too close to it, too close to the hook. That expert felt there's something going on this line, you know, he felt a little wiggling. And then he pulled, they have to pull the line. He said that the halibut got right on his nose, on Raven's nose. They were bringing him up.
Oh, can you guys online hear that? I heard a couple people said, okay. We'll go through, and then I'll post this recording so you guys can hear it later in case you guys can't hear it.
He could see under the bottom of the boat, just like you see the ceiling. So he came closer, he kicked up underneath the boat, and the man was pulling it. Whoever Raven is, he says, forgive me for telling this story. He was kicking underneath, holding him, bracing himself under there so they won't pull him in. Here was the raven nose on the hook. They pulled his nose on. They didn't know what it was. The fishermen did not know exactly what it was. When they went, the fishermen went ashore. The fishermen came down and they were examining this thing they brought up. Poor Raven came out from in the water without a nose. And he found a bark, and he shaken it. He stuck it to where his feet usually goes. Said he had on a hat with a bill on. And then where he got this hat that had a bill, and he started to walk. And he went from one house that began not coming to the village. One house at a time, and then he asked, I wonder who got the name's nose, gave it a name, he wouldn't say it's my nose, you know, I wonder who put it in that. It was next door, so he went to the next door house. Then he would go to the next this way they caught someone brought up the name's nose. Oh, that's here, try next door. He's walking through the houses. When he came to the house where his nose was, and he was asking, are you the people who brought up the name's nose? Yes, we did, it's right there. They put down the downy part of a bird feathers around it. looking at it. I said, my, this it's amazing. People looked at it, blinked their eyes, she pulled the other one out, and he put his nose back. He ran out the door. That's why when you see a raven, it doesn't look like it really fits onto his nose. That's the way the story went as it was told to him.
Okay. So one thing to think about as we're sort of listening. Oops, let me turn this back. As we're sort of listening to recordings like this, is thinking about Nora and others who've done this work, Weha, Jeff Lear, the translating and transcribing. Sometimes there's a whole bunch of noise, there's a bunch of other stuff, and you're trying to, as best you can, accurately write down what they're saying. And so this recording was very busy because you have this active translator, and so it was a really neat back and forth. But sometimes they're kind of just talking over each other. There's a third person who asks a question at some point in the middle, and so it's really incredible to just sort of sit and try and work through this. And so I'll post a recording so that you guys can listen to it later. It's much better with headphones because also we're going through these speakers in the ceiling, and then those of you online, it goes from my computer to the speakers to this microphone back into my computer, which is this weird loop. We did a whole class one time where we just transcribed stuff all semester. But it was really challenging because we had to sort of deal with these audio loops like this. But it's an incredible telling of the story. It's got great Tlingit, it's got great content, it's funny. It's a story that a lot of people might sort of know. And so let's just go through, unless you guys have anybody got any thoughts on it? Questions? Okay. So here's my plan, as we're each going to read a sentence, and then after you read your sentence, you're going to just point out anything that you might see that's sort of one of these directional, relational types of things that we've been looking at. And if you don't find, and I could point them out too if you don't see them. So who wants to go first? Let's do the room first, and we'll do online, then we'll take our break.
Yes, Teshin talked. You touch.
Yes, Teshin talked. You would touched. So what do you see in there? Any directional sort of things in there?
You.
The you is actually part of this verb, so you plus the K on the end means it's happening repeatedly. What's that? Talk. Yeah, so talk is the bottom of the water, down deep into the water. Talked would mean to arrive down at, it would kind of mean it could mean the bottom of the ocean, the bottom of the river. But usually when you say talked, you mean like someone swam down, touched the bottom of a swimming pool, the bottom of, so talk. So talk is the bottom of usually a body of water, right? So tesh talked you touch. He doesn't swim down to the bottom of the water. Kuk is or touch is to swim with your hands, like a person. Slap. The verb root there is to slap something, right? So when I was trying to teach my little brother Tlingit, I said, "Yuck, touch." He said, "Huh?" And I slapped him in the face. Not real hard. But then when I said it again, then he went like that. I was like, "Look at your learning." Okay. It's just
Cha an aya yata adad. Can you help me with this one? The
shkashnik.
shkashni kudzati.
Okay. Cha'an aya yata adad shkashnik kudzati. Any of those things that we've looked at in here?
Yes, but my mind is like going blank
Okay.
from the pressure.
It's okay. Yata is this one, right? So this is the ya one. So you could say wait that one. And it's a good thing to learn because it's not offensive to say that about people, right? So I was in a class once, an elder, she said, wait khanawus. Ask that one, right? Or yata, what's this one called? So yata, a dot, about it. So shkashnik, so a dot shkashnik, a story about it. So you could say Kate dot shkashnik, story about a dog. Achtla dot shkashnik, story about my mother. Anything dot shkashnik, story about whatever comes before the dot. So the dot is around, about, right? So maybe you could say idekak kwanik ya shukach adi dot. I'm going to tell you about the shukach adi. I'm going to tell you about yak dot. We want to say like yak dot, right? I'm going to tell you about yakatat. Then kudzati, it exists. You okay? Yes, dot, you okay? Watch.
Awa, away, you are, wait, touch, ya, disnak. Yay.
Mm-hmm. Awa achawe you wait taich yadus nakuye. Any of those directional things that we've looked at in here? There's one. There's only one in here, and that's which would be there. And then a lot of times you'll have some big verb with the suffix on it, yeah. And that would be the place where that verb happened. So, for example, when we asked for what we should name a daycare in Carcross, the elders came up with adatki adiltiniye, or adatki adiltiniye, the place where the children are watched, cared for, right? And so, we taich, and that's the fats. Awa achawe you he heard they say. You is something that's used in storytelling a lot, and it just means they say. So they say, right? And it's something that you can use if you're getting into storytelling. Okay. Yitro.
Pass.
Tai.
Hanach. Yay.
Okay. Tai ayah kunach kat acha yes. So this one doesn't have any of those directional things. Chus is just. Tai is fat. Kunach kat acha. He really only, the kat is doing this only thing, loves to eat fat, this raven. Okay, chukan. Well, I hope it gets better. Is anybody else having any freezing or anything like that? Is it okay for everybody? Okay, it's okay. Okay, we'll keep going. So chukan, I hope it gets better. Okay.
On away to shugu ade. The kuni ye.
Okay. So whenever we see like some kind of ade or ye or something that ends with a verb and then just a W, they're going to run into each other. So we're going to end up with adeu shechuniye. And so cha'an means like nevertheless or despite that. Chushugu is the same. And then Here's another sort of verb thing. So we saw that verb yeah, the place where the verb happens. Ade verb yeah, the way that verb happened. So we're talking about the way. So you might say the place where he ate it. The way that he ate it. Right? So you're talking about the way that that thing happened. And you'll see this used quite a bit too. Okay, so we've got, and Wishahuni would be, he stays thin, right? Or he or she is thin. All right, you okay?
So it would be Adeo Shikuni.
Yeah, Adeo Shahuni, yeah. So it just goes, Eo, you get that kind of effect. And so you're going to see that happen from time to time.
Away of Satin, away Yunaxi, Yechak, Ayik.
Okay. Awa au Satinawa, Adunaqtsiya, Yechak Ayik. Any of those directional things that you see in there? Okay. Guksa. So here's the that's the at that place, right? So adunaqtsiya. They're baiting hooks. And then you got chat chayik. Chayik is another one. It means below the mouth of, right? And so and when we say chayik, that usually they use that quite a bit to talk about, like, to serve somebody, to put it right in front of their face, right? And that's what they're talking about. They're dropping these halibut hooks right below the halibut's mouth. Okay.
Aka awe ade yahik yata yat shuhwa ach taide hubun.
Okay. Okay. Aka awe ade yahin kayata yat shuhwa achye atayide wugu. Any other directional things in there? It's a little different. This is kind of one of them. Yata would be this one. Yat would be from here, right? Because, and this one, like, he's lifting up a piece of cloth, maybe like a napkin, perhaps. Shukhwa akhye. And then, what about atayide? Yeah, to go under. So you could say atayide wugut. Then you could say nadak tayide wugut, went under the table. Hit tayide wugut, went under the house. Right? So in this case, a lot of the Raven stories, and there's some other stories too, where people just sort of lift up the ocean and would walk under it. And so it's a pretty common thing. So again, we see the ade yeah with some verb stuff in between it. Screen is way behind. We're having some interesting issues. Maybe I'll try. Well, I'll try and after the break I'll see what happens. I'll try a couple things. Okay. This
one. Nak Kekesh Luch Anach Yade Aksichadi Ye.
Okay. Dach Anat Akakek Nuch Anach Yendik Yendes Aksichadi Ye. Okay. Any directional things in there?
Nak.
Yeah, so anat would be around from from around it. And so this is part of this verb. So when you see some of these directional things in front of a verb, right? And so akakek means to untie it. So adnat, he's untying it and removing it. Adach is another one. It just sort of means from this or after this kind of a thing. And then anach, this is another one too. So anach, and then yendek sechadiyeh would be this place where they're getting ready to pull them up. Yendek sechadiyeh is to pull them up. Okay. Hayak.
As nade dus achun chak wait echa nade wait nak.
Okay. As anade. And here's another one. When you and so the way that people say these things, so then we write it here again, it's ending with a vowel right before the verb. And so the verb, instead of saying kadus achun, you're going to say nadik dus achun. So you're going to get some of these consonants that are sort of just running right into each other sometimes. Another one is the word for the dump, like a garbage dump. Adeksecha yeh. So there's ade, kasecha yeh, adeksecha yeh. So that's what's going to happen. So when things end with a vowel right before, especially like these day, so nade would be towards around the outside of it, kind of. Duksa achun. Ach is to bundle something or to tie it up, like to wrap a present, to tie something around it. Ach is long time ago. Echa is a hook. There's nade again, and then na is octopus. Right? That's what they're using for bait. Yende, yeah, well. Okay. Anybody online want to give it a shot?
No, I think I'm. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Huh. I can't hear them though now.
Yeah, Yisachwa. I muted myself in case there's any echo.
Oh, okay. Away tsuji tunuk not akawa kushkei.
Okay. Awa tesuji denuk anat akawaketi. Okay. Any of these directional things that we've sort of looked at?
Not.
Yeah, not. So from the sort of body of it, akawaketi, he's untying them again. I gotta fix this one. Ji denuk should be one word as a vowel. It means that you can feel it, right? And ji denuk could also mean like you're putting your hand on it to see what it feels like. But it also means like as they're holding the rope, they don't feel him untying them. Okay. Okay. Ichtidei. Someone else from online. Gook.
Awe ke dus die green awe we techa flesta sa an nak.
Okay. So the one that we see here, awe kechtus yekin awe we techa keltasa anak. Keltasa anak. There it is. So here's another one. So K is upward. So when we say kech dus yechen, people were pulling up these hooks, because that's how you do it, right? Did I unmute myself? Yeah, I did. So when they're pulling up these hooks, keshdasa, and keshdasa means nothing. A knock, there's nothing around it. So what they're talking about there is they're saying, and when they say, they're using this na word, which is sort of, they're referring to the body of that hook, because they're tying things to the body of that hook. And they're saying there's nothing specifically right there where they had tied that fat on, or that bait. Okay, let me highlight this one. Who's next? Gook?
Awe chak su chuyu, yeah.
Oh, okay. So this one's pretty straightforward. Where my little pointer go? There it is. Awake su chuye. It's the same thing. Chuye is the same thing. It can have two different interpretations. Could mean like long time ago, or it could also mean for a long time. Like they were doing something specifically for a long time. And we skip this one.
Is there a way to tell the difference on how it's used or assuming?
Usually if it comes before the verb ever takes place, then, like, so for example, if I'm starting a story, talk away, then it has to be a long time ago because nothing has happened yet. But if I mention the verb, so if I started with the verb, say he started walking, and then he walked for a long time. But a lot of ways that this gets done too is if you say chagudach, that always means from a long time ago. And then chagude is for a long time. And then, but otherwise it's about whether it becomes before or after the verb. If it becomes before the verb, then we're usually talking about long time ago. And if it comes after the verb, we're usually talking about for a long time.
So they did the verb for a long time if it comes after.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he talked to us for a long time. Long time ago, he talked to us. So yeah, a lot of it has to do with word placement. I'll just read this one that we.
I also seen it at the end of the sentence.
Yeah.
Not in the beginning.
So
in the English way, it was in the beginning.
Like, for example.
Was there a reason why it's at the end of the sentence?
Oh, the chalk. So, I guess it just depends. If the most important thing that I'm telling you is that long time ago they did this, so I might say chalk. Nachtin has a steig. Long time ago, they fished with halibut hooks. But then if the most important thing I'm telling, so the important part of the information is that this was done long time ago. But if the important information is that they were fishing with halibut hooks, then I would say, Nachtin has a steig. Then the long time ago thing is not the most important thing. It's that they were fishing with halibut hooks. It's a real subtle difference, but that's the difference. And then hinde is a directional one, yes. So kayau dinako awe to hinde. So hinde means to the water. And a lot of times you're just saying like going into the water, right? Like if you said tatke awa hinde hasbuat. That doesn't mean like to go up to the water. That means to go into the water, right? If you would say they went up to the water, like, for example, let's say I'm telling you last night people walked into the water. Tatke awa hinde hasbuat. Yesterday they went into the water. If I want to say yesterday they went to the edge of the water, Tatke hin chayach de hasmu'an. So chayach is the edge of the water. Otherwise, if you say hin de, people are just going to assume they went into the water. And a lot of times it could be like ceremonial bathing, or in this case, we already know the story, ravens going back into the water. Okay. We've had something like this, so I'll just read this. Anat akaket. So he's untying them again. Tsu, low tone, is again. Tsu, high tone, is also. Okay, can I get somebody online to read this one that's highlighted, if you can see it?
Khun a Yen dus ne saya.
Okay, chish. So, kun a yen dusne saya. How many times did this happen? It's really, the literal translation would be, how many times did this happen? So this is something you see. You say kun and saya at the end, right? So you can have stuff that's in the middle to say how many of these things. Kun ketsawe yiseti. How many dogs did you see? And you could say, you could also say kundehin. Kundehin would be how many times. But it works either way. So you could say kun yakisawe yawachi. How many days have passed? So in this case, yen dusne is for it's happening. Somebody is doing this thing, right? How many times did this thing happen? Okay. Okay, and then on our break, I'm going to try and just, I think I'll try and just shut the Zoom program down and launch it. Hopefully hopefully the meeting doesn't shut down. It shouldn't. But there seems to be a lag, and this screen resolution isn't that great on here. Okay. Can somebody read this next line?
Ya ye Haji Dunukuwait.
Sheesh. Yayesh. She Dunukuwait. So the other time is sometimes you're going to get just this L. She. So we don't need a vowel in between them. It's a contraction of Keshji. Keshji Dunukuwait. She Dunukuwait. And so, again, they don't feel anything. And this is another way that Tlingit works, right? We know we're talking about him stealing that bait, and those guys just don't know that it's happening. Okay, is anybody not read yet that's out there? Do a couple more, then we'll take our break.
Ka aya ada you to a tank. Where ka where astehi.
Sheesh. Aqa'aya ada yutu tank weqa we'astechi. So these lines at the end are just saying, we're talking about this person, this fisherman. Any directional sort of things in there?
Da.
Yep, so we've got da, so about. So you say tu a tunk, he's thinking about it. So this you tu a tunk means it keeps happening. It's not he thought about it, he is thinking about it. So, you tuch wa tunk would be I'm thinking about it. A da you tuch wa tunk. A da you tu wa tunk. And then you could just change that. A steich da you tu wa tunk. He's thinking about fishing. A steich da you tu wa tunk. He's thinking about dancing. Shkashnik da you tu wa tunk. He's thinking about a story. So these are ways that these things, you could see them, how they're working in this story, but we can also see how to sort of keep changing them and manipulating them. Okay, let's take our break. About 7 or 8 minutes, we'll come back, and we'll set this story aside. This is already posted, but I'll post the audio. And for those of you online, I'm going to shut this thing down and start it back up and see. Some things look like they're getting frozen.
Are they combined? I mean, how so many kids is that?
For real.
Okay. Well, here we go. So let me zoom in on this stuff because we're about to get grammatical.
We're about to get grammatical.
So we've been talking a little bit about parts of speech in Tlingit, and I want you to know all the parts that I know of that exist. This is the way that we kind of talk about them these days. Whether or not you know what these things are will not determine whether or not you become a speaker. But I think they just kind of help. So one of my goals is to sort of to say what kind of thing is this so that we can understand how it functions. And a lot of things is like, can you put a suffix on it? Does it need to belong to something? And what does it do? Because part of what it does determines word order. What we'll see in Tlingit, in Hawaiian, they like to use he'e, naq, octopus, devilfish, as their metaphor for grammar. Because they say, well, each of the tentacles is a thing, and the tentacles can move into all different places. So Tlingit has a little bit of that, where the word order can move around. We saw chak could be at the front, chak could be at the back, chak could be in the middle. And for some things, it's just a matter of like what's more important, what's a sort of personal preference. But there are other things where it matters. Adjectives and adverbs have to go in certain places. And we have to sort of understand basically what those things do. So we start out with nouns. So a noun is the name of something, right? So we know nadak, cake, douche, gooch, gooch, right? All these, it's just, it's its name. You're learning what its name is, right? It's not really a person, place, or thing. It's just the name of something. What we call a case suffix is something that attaches to a noun. It could make it possessed, it could make it plural, it could make it small, right? And those are the types of things that they do. It could mark that the dog is doing the verb, right? It could mark who's doing the verb. An adjective modifies a noun. There's not very many adjectives in Tlingit. There's maybe 30 of them. And they can come either before or after the noun. But there's two different types. You have to know which type this is. Cake, Sean, old dog. But the Sean comes after. Sheech, cake, female dog. That comes before. Yeast, cake, young dog. That comes before. So we'll look at some of these adjectives, and there's not a whole lot of them. Right? And not all of them work with every noun. Oh wait, so now, yeah, there's no video. I don't know if you guys can see me. I unplugged my camera and I plugged it back in, and then it stopped working. So I don't know if you guys can see me or not. Hold on. Oops. I can see myself. Yeah, there's just like a picture of me giving a speech. I don't know what to do. Hold on. Yeah. What if I change this to that? I see myself. Okay. So why would that not be using video? Ah. Okay, I don't know what I did. So it's alright, you can't see me. I'll try not to do too much. Okay. It's a glitch day. So there's also body parts. So body parts need to have a possessor. So, you know, it has to be achjin, dujin, ijin, katejin. and then it gets a possessive mark when it's disconnected. Like jini would be my hand or my arm or hand that's been disconnected from me. There's a land part, or part of the landscape. So there's a few of these words, like is a point of land, khat is an island, shah is a mountain. And some of the really good places to go look for these things are in place names. There's parts that are specific to plants. Ke is the trunk. There's some other words that are like very specific to plants. There's an independent base, which is relates to a fixed point in the Tlingit universe, and it can take a suffix. So we have like, zoom out a little bit. So we've got like dak, which is out to sea, and you could go dak day. We have dak, which is up to the inland, and you could go dak day. There's relational nouns, which need a possessor but cannot take a suffix. So you could say achnak wagut, or you can't say that. You can say achnak yigut. You left me behind. You left me here. There's a relational base, which is achda de. So achda de would be around me, coming to be around me. And so that can take a suffix, but it also needs to belong to something. And then you have a relational suffix, which usually shows motion or where something's at, and it can attach to a noun or any of these bases. You have a verb, which is, there's different types of verb. There's act, event, state, motion, or position. And every verb belongs to one of those categories. And then there's an adverb, and it modifies that verb so it appears right before that verb. That's everything, well, I guess it's not everything. The only additional things outside of this are what we call interjections or little particles, where interjections are little things that you say, like ha'eh or atskani, which they just convey something very quickly, but they're not used outside of that. A particle is a small thing that you don't say on its own, but it appears with other things like cha and chu and sa, those types of things. Okay.
Can you go back? That's so
Oh.
I'm writing as fast as I can. Sorry.
No, yeah. And then I'll put all these slides online too, so you guys can look. And then we'll also, as you go through, and one thing you might do is start finding some more of these different things. So what I'd like you guys to do is your good side, your good face. So ya is a directional. So ya de, you could go towards your face. Ya from your face. There's different things you could do, like this side, that side. Ga nach is the outside. So this is how do we use this stuff in context? All this stuff in context. Because if you don't have some way to use this stuff, it's going to be hard to sort of remember it. So one thing that I was having a hard time saying is on the outside of your body. And I asked a couple of elders, ga nach is on the outside of something. Because kids are always putting shoes on the wrong feet until they learn how to sort of look at shoes and know where to put them. And so I wanted to say this tag goes on the outside of your body, right? Or this thing goes on the outside of your body. So it's a you want this tag, this paper thing, to be on the outside. A strawberry has its seeds on the outside. Ganach. And that's from a couple of these things put together.
The ganach adi, is that part of it?
No, because it's ganach adi. Ganach is a place that's called Sheltered Harbor. So the nach part.
Come before the thing you're talking about.
Ganach, so it should come after. So all these things, we call them post-possessions because they come after. Idat, itayi, ikina. Okay. So what I'd like you guys to do is to go and find me, or find for yourself, 5 place names that have some of these things in them. So the place names I'm looking for shouldn't be really, they should be kind of significant to you, like you're going to remember them. They should contain a few of these different things, and you should be able to kind of show us, more or less, take a good stab at how they work. And so in order to look at how place names work, and this is a good sort of transition when we go from these directional things to place names, because in place names we're going to see a lot of them. And we're going to look at some lists of some different parts of, some different things you're going to see in place names. Right? Names of the land, some more of these sort of directional things. And then the directional things also really work for telling stories, for, giving directions. Like I was talking in a class today, and I didn't know where this guy wanted me to meet him. And there was these buildings. He's like, did you go between the buildings? Because on the back of this one building, there was like buildings all over. And I said, mountainside? And he says, yes, mountainside. Dakte. Dakte. Right. Oh, hold on. Okay, so we're going to learn some different things. Let me zoom in on here. So these are all relevant to place names, okay? And so a lot of these, we're going to start with some nouns. These are nouns you're going to see in a whole bunch of place names. These are really good to know all of these. So as you start to look at more place names, or once you hear a place name, you say, okay, I hear that word. I hear how that works. Right? So the first one, we know this word already. On. On.
On.
Day.
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 So there's a whole bunch, like whoosh, kinna, day. Whoosh is together. Kinna is upwards. Day is a path. So it's these two paths, these paths that go up together. Right? So that's over on the mountainside from downtown Juneau. Daeshu is the name for, there's a lot of places called Daeshu. Haines is one of them. There's a whole bunch of places called Daeshu, the end of the trail. Daeshu hit ton combines to become Daeshitan. The question back to Qanach Teidi or Qanach Addi. Qa means pleasant. Nach is a little harbor or a little cove. Addi, the things of sheltered harbor. Qanach Te Addi, the things of the rock at sheltered harbor. So what I'd like you guys to share on Thursday when we first get together is just 5 place names that you found. And then show us the different things that are, and find ones that you can figure out how they're working. Daeshu is a little short for my taste, and so, but find it, for example, and here's another one that you shouldn't use because I'm going to use it right now. On is the land. Goon is a portage. Or if you're from Canada, apparently you say portage. So fancy. On goon. That is what they now call Angoon. On goon. It comes from those two things. So like, technically, if we were to write, a lot of the place names, we smash them together. Tuk on. Eternal village. But those could be 2 different words as well. So in a lot of place names, they get kind of smashed together. So I want you to find what the parts are and show them to us. 5 place names. Be impressive. Find good ones. Right? Find ones that are also relevant to you. This is also the goon from like shagoon, right? The head portage. So a cliff is Gitch. Qit. Qit. Hit. You know that one. Heen. So that is also a river or a stream or a creek. And so there's another sort of thing that happens when we look at place names. One is you might have two words, chalk, heaney, right? So chalk and heaney, those are two words, so that would mean the eagle's water. But when it's a place name, what happens is it gets smashed together and becomes chakini. So the first part, that chalk for eagle, goes short and low. And then heaney, it becomes one word, and that just translates to Eagle River. Right? That's not about ownership, it's about relationship. Okay, if you're from Angoon or Cake or Teslin, you would say qi. Qi. And if you're from other places, you'd say qi. Qi. And this word really means between the folds of something. And you'll see it in a couple different places. Like, everybody has a jinn. My camera's not working. So you have an arm. If you go palm up, and then this place that they call the crook of your arm, this is called akhjiqi. 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 Because it's between the folds of my arm, right? So that bay means between the folds of something. And this is a large bay. The name for Glacier Bay is Sit-i-Tiqi, the bay where the glacier used to be. This is a really small, like a bight or a cove. Nach. Nach. That's another bay, but it's kind of narrow. I think it's kind of like a fjord. That's how I like to think of that. It's like got really steep sides. So qi is a big open bay. Qh is a little cove. Nach is a narrow kind of a bay.
Is this going to be on the Tlingit language site?
Yeah. Okay, next slide. So here's some more. Sit. 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 So that's a glacier. And so once you start speaking Tlingit, so as you know Tlingit, you want to get more place names, you should know that she-atika or she-tka is different than sit-ka, is different than seat-ka. Those are three different names, right? One's Sitka, one is on the glacier, one's on the canyon. That's the name for Petersburg. So the canyon or the channel, seat, 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 shaw, te, and that could also be like a point of a branch too. Ot, 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 ok, ok, ok. So if there's a place name called Tan Ati, what do you think that translates to? Sea Lion Island, right? So you're also going to see body parts that are in place names, right? So once we start, all this stuff starts getting put together. Directional terms, parts on the land, parts of the body. So everybody has this, except for fish. Fish have a different word for their back. Dich, 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 duke, duke, duke. There's this phrase where you'd say, okay, what does this word mean? Pudzati. Pudzati. To exist, yes. Oh, I'll show you guys the one for fish in a second. So pudzati is to exist. What is the negative form of that? Does anybody know? To not exist. To not exist. Tleich is the first part. Kuste. So you say tleich kuste. Cheese. Tleich kuste. So there's this phrase, if I said tleich, so look at the word duke. Tleich du duke kuste. What do you think that means? Tleich du duke kuste. Tleich du duke kuste. So it's not somebody walking around with no skin.
Is that like hide or something? Or?
Not hide, because and this one you'll see quite a bit as hide, because you'll see zisk dugu. Once you see dugu, now we're talking about a hide, right, or a skin, or from like Silence of the Lambs, hastu dugu dutoasugu. Heshduduk kuste means he or she does not get embarrassed. Isn't that fun? Because duke also means complexion. So it means they don't blush. Right? So it's really interesting the way that this stuff works in Tlingit. Thin skin, yeah, so not embarrassed. Okay. Shl. 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 So there's a place called Lutak, I think they call it. Shutak. Raven's hammer nose. There's a boat called Latuya. Shtu'a. Oops, that one's not related to that, sorry. Shtu. You'll see Shtu quite a bit. There's a place, if you're coming from Skagway, Shkagway Ade Gwashlichu, Shkagway Adach Gwashlichu, Deshu Ade. Yisitin Ka'awe Ka, Daye Shtu Ka, Ye Duasak, Kadaye Shtu Ka Ichi. If you're coming from Skagway to Haines, when the ferry turns towards Shutak, Lutak, you go past this point that's called Daye Shutu, inside of, Deya. Deya Shutu, inside of Deya. And then there's a reef out there called Deya Shutu Ichi. So Sh is also a point of land. It's a beak, a nose, or a point of land. Jin, Jin, Kitch, Kitch. And you'll see this as Kiji quite a bit. And if they're ever on, a lot of times if they're attached to a clan house name, it'll be the removed form. Keet uchu hit. Keet gushi hit. And so it's something that's just kind of interesting. Key. Key. Sha. Teich. Teich. Eek. Eek. Walk. Walk. Che. Che. Choose. Choose. So the che one is important to know that it's also an opening. It's not just a mouth. Dog. 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 Deki. 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 Dekinde. 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 Deyinde. Deyinde. Gone. 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 Ichki. Ichki. Naki. 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 Neich. 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 Ye. Ye. So if we're inside the building, we use neich. If we're outside of the building, we use ye. So for example, Tehitiyeyetiyeh. Raven lives in a stone house. Yeyeti, hit yeyeti. Gusa, right? Or Gudesawugud. Where did he or she go? Nehidewugud. He or she went into the house. Niche. Ik. Ik. So niche would be to just talk about something being on the beach. Ik would be going towards the beach from the inland. Yun. Yun. So let's switch to this one. So we're going to look at some other combinations. So we started looking at this, I think, a little bit last week, and so we're going to do this. And then when we get together Thursday, you're gonna go over some of your place names, some of the stuff you're able to figure out, how these place names are working. You should each have 5 that you'll share with us. And then, why did you pick these? So one of the things that we want to try to do is put the language back on the land. And I think that happens in our brain by starting to learn these place names and use them.
Like 5 little sentences?
They don't have to be sentences. They just have to be just a place name. What you should be able to do is show us how it works. For example, I'll show you guys an example. If I can do this right. No, let me just do this. So my example would be, there's a place in just north of Skagway. If you're driving from Skagway up to Whitehorse, and this is the name of that place. This is the name. Auchsanichu. 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 Can anybody translate that for me? Any parts in there you might recognize?
Somebody knows sun. Is who blanket? Or is that a different?
No, it's different. So earlier we had learned this kind of thing, right? Let's say we have Kate, which is a dog, right? Let me make this bigger. Let me make that even bigger. So if we have Kate, and that's a dog, and we say, well, what if I wanted to say, like, little dog? How would I say little dog? Kate.
Was that a small forest? Uncle's small forest?
Getting there. So what if I wanted to say dogs? Oh, Kate's. That's fun. That's wrong. Anybody remember this? Yeah, what? Kate. What if I wanted to say little dogs? Not and so you could do uski Kate, but there's a suffix combination that does that. Anybody remember? Kate Kisani, right? Kate Kisani. So the way this Isani, or sometimes it's Usani, it means plural littles, right? Atchach Isani is snacks, little foods. Tech Isani is pebbles, little rocks. Usani is notes, little papers, right? So there's these little things, and it's a very cute thing to do. So, what is on its own? It's a lake. So we have lake. And then we have this attachment. So now we have little lakes. Does anybody know who? Do you know who's coming?
We talked about this in your other class, and I feel like I should know.
I just said it just like a little while ago, so you guys should especially know. Who is among, right? Who is among. This is one of these. So here we have a noun that has a suffix thing attached to it, and then who is among, right? So this is used in stories. You might say, he was among the fish people for a year. He was among the Kushta people, right? So this is what I'm hoping is you'll be able to find 5 of these place names that are kind of challenging you a little bit, and you're going to find how to break it down. How is this working? And try not to pick really big. Some of them are really big. Some of them are hard. Some of them there's no translation given. And if you're not sure where to find these, let me show you. So under tlingitlanguage.com, under resources and print and web, load, go day. I think we're having network issues. I got issues. Let me see what works here.
Yeah, my internet just stopped dead in this track. Just trying to go to untitled.com.
Yeah.
Are you looking at that question?
Okay.
You said who was supposed to be among, but how does that divert? I might be wrong, but something like Yahoo is to be small or something like that you mentioned before. How am I getting that wrong?
I don't remember Yahoo. I'll have to see.
I have it in my notes somewhere where it's YAXOO with the X underline. Did I write that wrong somewhere?
Maybe. There's some different ways to say small, and usually like yegugenk would be like a verb to talk about something being small. There's that suffix that can be put onto something to make it small. There's usk to say sort of something is small. And they're usually cute when they're small. Yeksigenk would be for a person or living thing to be small. So, yeah, sorry about that. Okay, well, it looks like this finally loaded. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'm just trying to figure out how the who works with Yahoo.
Yahoo.
Just so I can turn my notes here.
Yeah, let me. I don't. Let me see if I could find. Let me see if I could find it. I also have to find. I see Yahoo as like among faces, and so I'm not sure where else we might have seen that. I don't know if anybody else remembers us talking about it. So, shucks, I'm not exactly sure. But maybe Thursday I'll see if I could find anything else. Under the resources for print and web, if you go down, there's a section here which is, what I did is I scanned all the sort of place names that are in the new Thornton book, and you can search this document. So it's not the whole book, because that belongs to other people. But just so that we can you can have this document with you. So if someone says, hey, what's the name for Forester Island. What's the Tlingit name for, Teneke? What's the Tlingit name? You can look them up in there. And so then you'll be able to look up some place names. So if you go here, it should open a document. And you can download this. You can download this, you keep it on your phone or your computer or whatever, so that, and so this has been useful for me because I was flying on my way to Wrangell and I started looking down. I was like, oh, what are these places called? And I was able to go and just sort of scroll through the maps and look them up.
Where is it at again? I can find it.
So if you go to tlingitlanguage.com under resources and then print and web, scroll down a bit and you'll see place names from, and that's where it is. So you should be able to find 5 of them on there easily. I'll try and see where I had this Yahoo business. Yeah. Oh yeah, I think we're running out of time. Any other questions? Okay, so we'll take a break from some of these tables, because I've got lots of these tables, right? So kadach, yadach, kach, kat, all these different things. But it's important to start getting the differences between these. But what we can do is you can keep coming into the stories, looking for them, finding them on there. But what we'll do is we'll go back into the beginning Tlingit workbook on Thursday after we've gone through your place names. And then we'll start looking at kinship and just a variety of different sort of verbs. I think we move into motion verbs after that. So like coming and going, walking here, walking there, walking from there, walking from there. Okay, yeke, chish. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Ucha.
Yeah, sorry for speaking up. I tried. Freshman. Mine is not.